This is a reading of This Man Wants to Be on Birth Control in Time Magazine, June 18th, 2018 edition by Alexandra Sifferlin. In the health section, inside the race to develop a better male contraceptive. Daniel Dudley, 28, is a busy man. The medical resident at Valley Medical Center in Washington is an active hiker, an amateur chef, he's currently learning how to cook Indian cuisine, and a proud quote-unquote father to two dwarf rabbits whose antics he chronicles under the Instagram handle Bunny Zaddy. He's also at least partially responsible for the creation of a new male contraceptive. Over the past 5 years, Dudley has volunteered for 3 separate clinical trials of 3 male contraceptive methods. He's taken a daily pill, rubbed a hormonal gel on his chest, and received an injection of hormones into his left butt cheek. If all the methods were available today, he says, he would totally use the injection for its long-lasting convenience. Dudley, who is in a long-distance relationship with his partner Adrian Ton, wants to do his part to increase contraception options for men and take the burden of pregnancy prevention off women, which is an injustice, he says. There's been much less money and effort put into safely and effectively lowering men's fertility. Women today bear the greatest responsibility for preventing pregnancy, with nearly a dozen options for birth control, including long-term solutions like the IUD implant and short-term strategies like the diaphragm and vaginal ring. For a century, men have had only 2, the condom, with a failure rate of close to 20%, and the vasectomy, which is considered largely irreversible and involves minor surgery. There has not been a new commercial contraceptive for men in several decades. This may change, thanks to new clinical trials and shifting perceptions of gender responsibilities, including those in the bedroom. Along with overdue conversations about consent, scientists are hoping that a time is right to change the contraceptive imbalance and are launching clinical trials this year of different methods, including pills and gels, with the hope that they will attract drug companies with promising results. Industry analysts believe that there is money to be made. If a new male contraceptive method is approved in the next 5 years, the market is projected to be around $1 billion by 2024 and could grow at a rate of 6% over the next 10 years, according to Global Market Insights. And there's a pressing need. In the U.S. alone, 45% of the pregnancies are unplanned, and yet the public health strategy to prevent them largely ignores 50% of the population. The arrival of the birth control pill in 1960 started a sexual revolution, helping women level the playing field. Its debut in the U.S. market changed society in unanticipated ways, too. College enrollment among American women who could access the pill legally by age 18 in 1970 was 20% higher than among women who could not. 1/3 of wage gains women have made since the 1960s are considered to be a result of oral contraceptive access, according to a Planned Parenthood report. But female birth control methods have not solved the world's unplanned pregnancy problem. Studies suggest that it's common in the U.S. for women to cycle through multiple types of birth control, often because of side effects. Yet the burden of pregnancy prevention almost always falls on them, with 62% of all women of reproductive age currently using a contraceptive method. Even when it comes to permanent measures, female sterilization remains a much more common procedure than vasectomy in the United States. Women not only endure all the physical risks when a birth control method fails, but also assume the social ones. A 2018 Denmark study found that a woman's income sharply declines after she has her first child, a drop not experienced by men, which ultimately causes women to earn 20% less than men throughout the rest of their careers. Ton, 26, who is studying to become a family nurse practitioner at Columbia University, says women may initially find it difficult to relinquish some control over pregnancy prevention, but that doing so can create more balance in a relationship. Women are so used to carrying that burden and are socialized to think it's our responsibility, she says. But I think women would be willing to have more protection. Ton says she was initially nervous about Dudley's trials, but thinks it's amazing that he's willing to volunteer. Surveys suggest that at least 50% of men would use a new male contraceptive, with men in stable relationships being the most open to taking a daily pill. While some scientists are exploring hormonal options for men that suppress testosterone and sperm production, other researchers are exploring non-hormonal options. Recently, the pill method that Dudley tested showed promise. Researchers gave Dudley and 82 other men a drug called dimethandrolone, undecanoate, or DMAU, which lowers certain hormones like testosterone that are required for sperm production. The small study found that the once-daily pill appeared safe, and among men who took the highest dose, it was able to suppress the hormones needed for sperm development to extremely low levels that classified their bodies as medically castrated. The men didn't experience serious side effects, however, because DMAU also mimics testosterone throughout the body. The scientists behind the DMAU pill trial from the University of Washington School of Medicine, Los Angeles Biomedical Research Institute, and elsewhere have worked in the field for years and say there's welcome and unprecedented energy around their research today. We have a lot of positive momentum right now, says study author Stephanie Page, the division head for metabolism and endocrinology at UW-Medicine. I think the field may be in a different place because the public is expressing quite a bit of interest. There are changes happening socially. It seems different from 15 years ago. Like Dudley, Christopher Thordarson, a California native and self-described beach bum who attends UW-Medicine, where he is studying microbiology, has volunteered in multiple clinical trials for male birth control methods. In January, Thordarson, 22, got an injection containing either DMAU or a placebo into his right abdomen to lower his sperm count to nearly negligible. He was told not to use the method as contraceptive just in case. "I felt like I was being stung by a bee," he said. Thordarson and Dudley say the pain from the needle is a worthy burden to bear if it means they're doing their part to advance the science behind male contraceptives and, in their opinion, right or wrong. "I think having both men and women be responsible for preventing unwanted pregnancies will alleviate a lot of the misogyny and crap that women face," says Thordarson. In the pill study that Dudley participated in, the side effects were minor. 8 of the 60 men taking the drug reported decreased libido, and 5 men taking the drug reported acne. Dudley says he didn't feel any different taking the pill. The researchers are now testing the effects of the pill on an additional 100 men before moving on to a longer trial with couples in a few years. In the meantime, the National Institute of Health, NIH, and the Population Council, with the help of several universities around the world, are planning to kick off one of the largest male contraceptive trials to date in July for a gel contraceptive. Research behind the gel method is further along than the pill, largely because when taken orally, lab-made testosterone, which is used in male contraceptives, clears the body quickly, and researchers say that gel gets absorbed into the skin and stays in the bloodstream longer than pill versions so far. Recruitment is underway for the gel trial, which will enroll over 400 couples in 6 countries and require men to rub the gel onto their upper arms and shoulders once a day. The gel contains a synthetic progesterone called nesterone, which blocks the testes from making enough testosterone to produce sperm, and a synthetic testosterone, which will counteract the subsequent hormonal imbalances. Once the men's sperm count has reached a low enough level, the men and women will agree to rely solely on the gel as their birth control. Historically, men have had one of the first contraceptive options. The much maligned condom has been around in some form since Imperial Rome, though the first recorded descriptions appeared in the 16th century. It evolved from animal intestines to latex and gained mass appeal during times of war. The German military began supplying condoms during World War I to prevent sexually transmitted diseases, and by 1918 condoms were legalized in the U.S. for disease prevention. The vasectomy was first described in the 19th century as a procedure for dogs, before becoming a method to treat enlarged prostates or as an alternative to castration. During the first half of the 20th century, vasectomies were used as part of state-backed eugenics programs that forced the procedures on prisoners. But the second half of the century, men started to get the procedure electively, and today it is estimated that 175,000 to 550,000 vasectomies are performed every year in the United States. Clinical trials in the modern search for a third male contraceptive kicked off in the early 1970s when both the U.S. and Chinese governments launched studies on potential sperm-suppressing compounds that could be taken by pill. Chinese researchers ran trials of gossypol, a chemical that's derived from seeds of cotton plants, in over 8,000 men. Daily gossypol pills lowered men's sperm count, but some of the men did not return to their usual fertility levels after ending the pills, and several experienced severe drops in their potassium. Ultimately, the work was discontinued over concerns about the side effects. Researchers backed by the NIH started experimenting with injectable male hormonal birth control options. Early studies showed that with the right combination of testosterone and the synthetic hormone progesterone, a man's sperm count could be substantially lowered. Pharmaceutical companies Organon and Schering teamed up on a clinical trial in the early 2000s for which about 300 men were given progestogen implants and injections of testosterone. Although the men experienced side effects like acne, weight gain, and mood issues, they also experienced dramatic drops in sperm counts. But after the pharmaceutical giant Bayer bought shearing in 2006, Bayer is one of the top sellers of female birth control with brands like Mirena and Yaz. Both companies closed their research programs. Ultimately, the decision was made to halt male contraceptive research, and we currently do not have plans to pursue it in the future, a Bayer spokesman told Time. Another former company called Sterling Drug tested a fertility-suppressing compound called WIN 18446. But when an inmate at Oregon State Penitentiary who was taking part in the trial drank contraband scotch and became violently ill, Bloomberg Businessweek reported, it became clear the method didn't mix well with alcohol. A few scientists are keeping that research going on a small scale, but they lack funding from pharmaceutical companies or government grants. The future of male contraceptives may come down to one question. How much physical risk should a man carry? Scientists say it's harder to justify, even if it's a harsh or dated view, having a healthy person take a medication and deal with its side effects to prevent an outcome from happening to someone else. The results from a trial published in 2016 in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism illustrate the problem. The study, which began 10 years ago, was one of the largest male contraceptive trials and launched in 10 study sites around the globe with support from groups like the World Health Organization and UN Development Program. On paper, the trial results showed that the contraceptive, which used a combination of long-acting testosterone and a derivative of the female hormonal progesterone, was an early success. 320 men, with consent of their female partners, agreed to undergo injections every 2 months of the hormones, which were designed to substantially lower their sperm count, and then use that method as their primary form of birth control. The findings were stunning. Hormonal injections given to the men were 96% effective at suppressing their sperm and preventing pregnancy, and the vast majority of men said they would use it if it came to market, likely in pill form. And yet, despite the method's popularity and how well it worked, an independent panel appointed by the World Health Organization argued that the side effects experienced by some men, including mood swings and depression, were unsafe. I did not agree, says study author Gabriel Noa, a researcher on male contraceptive at the Instituto Chileno de Medicina Reproductiva in Santiago, Chile. It's true there were side effects, but they were mild and well tolerated. Researchers say the closure of the study may say less about men's willingness to put up with the same side effects women do, and more about whether regulators think they should. In fact, over 80% of the men in the shuttered trial said they would use the method if it were available. The decision to end the trial sparked criticisms in the reproductive health community, with some arguing that women regularly deal with significant side effects from their hormonal birth control, including mood swings, depression, acne, strokes, low libido, blood clots, and more. The side effects were no different from female hormonal contraceptives, says study co-author David J. Handelsman, a professor of reproductive endocrinology and andrology at the University of Sydney, adding that he was definitely not in agreement that the trial should end. Interviews with 9 of the report's authors revealed that many of them did not agree with the panel's decision or were disappointed by it. There are other reasons pharmaceutical companies have not been quick to invest in bringing male contraceptives to market. Creating a male method is an onerous process. Female birth control works largely by preventing the ovulation of one egg once a month. But men produce millions of sperm every day, and bringing that number down to 0 involves careful experimentation with various hormones, dosing, and intervals. And it takes a while to get it right. Hopefully, we will have results that are exciting and effective enough that a company will come and partner, says Diane Blythe, chief of the Contraceptive Development Program at Eunice Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, who is supporting the upcoming gel trial. I'd like to have choice and options, and I would like control of my own destiny. A quote from Devin Patterson, 33, from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Plenty of men are excited by the prospects. Devin Patterson, 33, a data architect in Grand Rapids, Michigan, describes himself as someone with a strong leaning toward the child-free lifestyle, and says he would consider using a male contraceptive beyond condoms, hormonal or non-hormonal, if it were available, side effects included. It comes down to choice, he says. I'd like to have choice and options. I don't know why it has to be the women's problem, and I would like control of my own destiny. Researchers and investors are betting on the popularity of non-hormonal contraceptives that would allow men to go a decade between procedures. In India, researchers have tested a sperm-blocking product called Resug, reversible inhibition of sperm under guidance, in human clinical trials with success. The procedure involves injecting a polymer gel into the vas deferens, the tube sperm swim through, neutralizing the sperm. It's estimated to be at least 98% effective and has been tested so far in about 500 men, preventing pregnancies in their partners for up to 10 years. It has inspired similar versions in the U.S. The nonprofit Parsamas Foundation acquired the rights to produce Resug in 2010 and has since created Vasogel, which may begin a clinical trial in humans in 2019. Vasogel is also a polymer gel injected into the vas deferens, and the group expects it to be long-acting but reversible and safe to use for several years. In a study published in February 2017, researchers tested Vasogel in 16 adult male monkeys and found that it was effective at preventing pregnancy during the monkeys' mating seasons. I care about my wife, and if we were on birth control, that's the method we would choose, says Kaplan Akinselar, 37, an audio and video engineer in New York and the father of one child who has been following Vasogel research. I can't believe it's taken this long for an alternative to condoms to even be an option. Contraline, a startup in Charlottesville, Virginia, is developing a method that's somewhat similar to Resug and Vasogel. The company uses a solution that is injected into the vas deferens and hardens into a hydrogel in seconds, blocking sperm. The company has yet to launch human clinical trials, but has been popular among investors, raising $2.25 million in a funding round led by Peter Thiel's Founders Fund in 2017. Although Contraline CEO Kevin Esifratz would not release the number of men who have contacted the company, he says over 70% of people who have reached out have expressed interest in participating in future clinical trials. We thought it would be women signing their boyfriends or husbands up, but it's been primarily men signing themselves up, says Esifratz, adding that the company hears largely from men in their 20s and 30s. I think there's a huge interest from millennials. For men like Akinselar, a non-hormonal option that's reversible is appealing, though he says he's unsure whether other men would be on board. I've asked people I work with if they would do it, and they're like, absolutely not. I would not take a shot in the balls, he says. Researchers remain optimistic that the field will bring a male birth control method to market within 10 years, but argue that they need more support to make it a reality, ideally from pharmaceutical companies. Large, costly studies involving thousands of couples are likely needed. And if a male pill makes it to federal consideration, will regulators agree that the payoff, even if there are side effects, is worth it? Dudley, the Washington medical resident, remains confident the market is there. I think as research continues, more men will be open to it, particularly men broadly interested in social justice, he says. Our society is moving toward more gender equality in many ways. This is an obvious next step. This has been a reading of This Man Wants to Be on Birth Control in Time magazine by Alexandra Sifferlin in the June 18, 2018 issue. The reader for this article was me, Adriana in Long Beach, though I do not claim to be a professional reader. If you have found this reading to be edifying, educational, informative, entertaining, or you simply saved 17 minutes by doing other tasks while the article was read to you, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I regularly read articles from the hot news stories of the week. As a subscriber, you will get notifications when new readings are uploaded. Thanks again for listening.